So let's talk about the guiding principles that make this approach actually work. So the first one is proactive value over reactive outreach. So instead of waiting for hiring signals to reach out, you're consistently delivering market intelligence and insights whether the prospect is hiring or not. The goal here is that when they finally need to hire, you're the first and only call that they make.
Initiating becoming a hiring machine sequence in 3, 2, 1.
Majority of agency recruiters currently focus their energy on the 5% of the market that's actively hiring. This leads to intense competition, commoditization, and a feast or famine business cycle. Elite agency recruiters, on the other hand, they build their businesses a bit differently. They cultivate trust. The 95% of the market, the prospects who aren't actively hiring today, but will be at some point in the future. They're playing the long game. And when those prospects need help, these elite recruiters are already at the top of their list, having established that trust and credibility already, so prospects come straight to them. Today, we're going to cover exactly how you can do this with the account-based prospecting playbook for recruitment agencies. This philosophy is a shift, the ABP, from the reactive mindset. Do you have any open roles? It's taking a much more proactive one. I have market insights relevant to your biggest challenges while building trust and positions you as the premium recruitment partner, not just another recruiter. So we're going to go through a playbook today that outlines what's account-based prospecting from the philosophical level all the way through a 12-month playbook that's going to take you from chasing jobs to being the go-to for any hiring needs a prospect might have. So first things first, what is account-based prospecting? First big takeaway, account-based prospecting is all about the who. At its heart, the account-based approach begins with a fundamental question: who do I want to attract, acquire, and ultimately do business with? So unlike traditional methods that might focus on matching a single candidate to an immediate job opening, ABP, account-based prospecting for short, takes a zoomed out view. It involves proactively identifying the entire universe of potential accounts, the companies that align with your desired client profile. So this involves creating a defined list of companies that you genuinely want to work with. This list isn't about every company under the sun. Rather, it's about identifying those that fit specific criteria, such as the industries. So are they in a particular industry or sector? Their location, do they operate within a specific geographical area? Their company size, do they have a certain number of employees or a certain revenue that they operate at? And by proactively identifying these accounts, recruiters can move beyond a reactive stance where they wait for job openings to appear and instead strategically engage with companies that are the right fit for their services. This approach applies to both new prospects and existing clients with whom you wish to deepen your engagement. So let's move beyond the MPC approach with it. So the MPC, most placeable candidate or spec CV approach, has long been a common strategy for recruiters to grow their business. While it offers the advantage of communicating immediate relevance by presenting a candidate who matches an existing hiring need, it also has potential drawbacks when it's relied upon exclusively for business development. It's very reactive, so the MPC approach is inherently that way. It's often triggered by an advertised job opening. This means recruiters are constantly trying to get in just in time with a suitable candidate. It's also tied to candidate availability. So the recruiter's value is directly linked to the availability of a relevant MPC. If you don't have the perfect candidate at the exact moment a need arises, your leverage diminishes. And lastly, you have limited control over the narrative. So with MPC, the focus is on the candidate, not necessarily you, the recruiter, your unique expertise, or your service. So account-based prospecting, on the other hand, allows recruiters to control more of this narrative. You're pitching your service, your unique knowledge, your skill set, your expertise. This approach emphasizes developing relationships proactively, providing value, becoming a trusted resource before a specific hiring need arises. The goal is to be on the first list, meaning when a company finally has a talent pain point, you're top of mind. By consistently demonstrating the value, credibility, and expertise in your niche, you become their go-to person rather than just one of many agencies that might pop up in a quick search. So before we get into some more of that, let's talk about the elephant in the room, change. It's going to be uncomfortable, but why should we embrace this? I mean, this is new. Is it unproven, so to speak? So the approach is absolutely different. If you've been doing business development the traditional way, cold calling about open roles, sending spec CVs, competing on speed and price, this playbook is going to challenge everything you think you know about business development and recruiting. So that discomfort, it's completely normal. You're not alone in feeling hesitant about changing a process that's been paying your bills, even if it's been increasingly difficult or frustrating in recent years. But here's the reality of it. The old way of doing business development and recruiting is becoming less effective each and every year that goes by. Decision makers are overwhelmed with pitches, job boards have commoditized candidate access, and clients are increasingly seeing recruiters as interchangeable vendors rather than strategic partners. So whether you're a 360 recruiter juggling business development alongside delivery, you're focused specifically on the BD side of an agency, you're working in an executive search firm to help with all this, the fundamentals of client acquisition are shifting. The companies that will thrive in the next decade aren't the ones with the fastest response times or the lowest fees. They're the ones positioned as trusted advisors who understand the market better than anyone else. This isn't just about doing recruitment differently. It's about building a more sustainable, profitable, and enjoyable business for yourself. The recruiters already using these principles report higher margins, they have longer client relationships, and they have significantly less stress about where their next placement is going to come from or who it will be with. So the choice is simple at the end of the day. You can evolve with the market or get left behind competing for scraps with everyone else while still playing the old game. So let's talk about the guiding principles that make this approach actually work. So the first one is proactive value over reactive outreach. So instead of waiting for hiring signals to reach out, you're consistently delivering market intelligence and insights whether the prospect is hiring or not. The goal here is that when they finally need to hire, you're the first and only call that they make. Next principle is the give to get ratio. For the first 3 weeks, the goal is to give 95% and ask 5% of the time. You are giving away valuable, niche-specific market intelligence for free. The only ask is for their attention. This flips the dynamic on them. You're not someone asking for their time. You're a market expert offering valuable data. Your prospects are constantly getting bombarded, asking for their time. They're getting tired of it. So it's a breath of fresh air for them when they have someone that's just leading in with like, hey, I thought this might be helpful. I know you're busy. I know you're slammed. I know you're struggling with this. Hope this helps. Next principle is earn the call. So the email's job is to deliver value and establish context. The phone's job is to advance the conversation based on that context. A recruiter should never make a truly cold call in this playbook. Every call is warmed up by a preceding value-driven email. The phone call is a higher friction touch point than an email or LinkedIn message, so the key is to ensure every call is preceded by value and has a clear consultative purpose. The recruiter must earn the right to take up the prospect's time on the phone. And lastly, focus on business outcomes. Your message should resonate with the recipient's potential needs and challenges. Prospects are primarily concerned with saving time, making more money, or saving money. Your messages should subtly or directly address these business outcomes. Recruiters help save time and money, and businesses help make more money. Align your value proposition with these core benefits. Let's talk about now building your ideal client profile, the ICP. aka these are the companies that you actually want to work with. So remember how we said at the beginning, ABP is all about the who. This is the critical first step. So defining your ICP is the most important part of account-based prospecting, but it doesn't have to be complicated. It's a very simplified approach, what we're going to distill it down into. So step one, analyze your historical data or your preferences. So for experienced recruiters, start by looking at your past year or two of business. Are there specific niches where you've consistently performed well? Are there certain clients that you genuinely enjoyed working with? Were there engagements that led to repeat business or further growth? If you're a new marketer, consider the interests or areas where you want to develop your expertise as well as the current market and line up with that. Step two is identifying your sweet spot here. So within the industry, are there one or two industries where your knowledge or your network is particularly strong? For job functions and roles, do you specialize in placing specific types of professionals? Geographic regions, are you constrained to a city, a state, a country, a continent? Align on that. Next one is company size or maturity. So do you prefer working with early stage startups, mid-sized growth companies, large Fortune 100, 500 companies? Hone in on that. And then lastly, consider the market opportunity. So while your preferences are important, you also want to be mindful of the current and future potential market landscape. Is the industry you're targeting booming? Is it shrinking? That can influence your strategy and potential for success. Step three, you can leverage AI to help refine your ICP if you need to. So if you're struggling to define your ICP or you lack extensive data, AI tools, they're a dime a dozen: ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, any of them, they can all be invaluable. So brain dump and define into here. So input all the information you have about your ideal clients, even if it's anecdotal. Ask AI to identify patterns for you, suggest missing criteria, and help structure your ICP. Further, you can do some market research. So use AI to research current hiring trends, identify surging industries, or pinpoint specific subsectors within broader fields that are experiencing or will be experiencing significant growth. So remember here, the goal is not to be so niche that you limit your opportunities, but you want to be focused and ensure that your outreach is highly relevant. So let's now talk about how do you craft the insights that is going to attract the attention and spur the conversations with these prospects. So the difference between good and great market intelligence lies in specificity, relevance, and insight. So there's certain standards that every piece of intelligence should meet, and we call it the SPINE framework, SPINE. So every market insight you share should have S, specific, numbers, names, timeframes. Hiring is increasing versus 3 major players hired 15 plus professionals in 90 days. See the difference there? Next letter, P, provable, based on observable data that you can verify. So LinkedIn moves, job postings, news announcements, your own network intelligence. Third letter, I, insightful. So this goes beyond the obvious. It's not just what happened, but what this means for your business. N, novel. So this is information that they likely don't already know. So avoid rehashing publicly available news everyone has seen. They've already come across this, but what is novel to them that you also know because of your unique expertise? And this leads us to E, executable. So they can act on this information, even if it's just be aware or plan accordingly. So this ties us back to the relevance principle. So the core principle of effective outreach remains relevance. Your message should resonate with the recipient's potential needs and challenges, specifically focusing on how your insights can help them. Again, the big 3, save time. So faster hiring, reduced internal recruiting burden, make more money, better hires leading to improved performance, faster time to hit the revenue targets, things like that, or saving money. How do they reduce hiring costs, lower turnover, anything like that? So let's do a couple examples real quick. A difference between good and great, because I think once we go through these, you'll understand it a little bit more in context. So a good example might be the fintech market is competitive right now. It's generic. There's not really any specifics. Everyone knows this. A great message would look like 3 major players, Stripe, Plaid, and Square, hired 15 plus risk professionals from traditional banks in the past 90 days. This suggests that fintech companies are prioritizing regulatory expertise over pure tech backgrounds. Very specific company names, numbers, timeframes, and insights. You can see the difference there. So here's another, a good one. Salaries are increasing in tech. No shit, Sherlock. So it's broad. There's nothing actionable in that. A great one, senior product manager total cash compensation jumped from about $240,000 to $280,000 average in the New York City fintech space over the past 12 months. Any 2026 budget below this range, it's going to struggle to compete. So very specific to roles, locations, numbers, time frame, and actionable implications. So as you can see, it's more work to get to that, but the relevance and the reply that you're going to get out of it, it's going to be worth it 10 out of 10 times. So to come up with a mental model of a checklist, basically, before you send anything out, you should ask yourselves these questions. 1, would this information surprise an industry insider? 2, can I point to specific evidence supporting this claim? 3, does this help them make better business decisions? 4, is this more valuable than what they'd find in a generic industry publication? And 5, would I find this interesting if I received this from someone else? So remember, one great insight is worth more than 5, 10, honestly 50 mediocre data points. Quality over quantity always. So let's talk about how to adapt this framework into your recruiting niche. So throughout this playbook that we're going to be following, we can use fintech recruiting as our primary example, focusing on risk and compliance professionals in New York City. So this is intentional. Specific examples here are going to be more helpful and useful for you to connect the dots here. So as we go through this together, just adapt this to your industry, your niche, who you might be working. So replace the market trend. We might be covering regulatory hiring surges with your industry's current shift. Substitute the role type, update the companies, adjust the pain points. You can do any of this, but just keep this in mind as I use this for example purposes. So as we go through this and before we get into how we execute, one of the underlying things that you're going to need is the expertise, the insight, everything that you already have, but how can we systematize this a little bit more? So how could we build a market intelligence system in 15 minutes a day? So having this type of intelligence is what's going to separate elite recruiters from commodity vendors. Here's an approach that might work for you. So it's going to be broken out into daily habits, weekly analysis, monthly items, quarterly items. So daily, 15 minutes a day. We usually say 15 minutes right here. Spend 5 of it on LinkedIn. Just go check recent job changes in your target companies, note any new executive hires or departures, track company growth announcements or funding news. Competitive monitoring. So you can review job postings from 5 to 10 key companies in your niche. You can note which changes are in job requirements, salary ranges, hiring urgency. You can also track which roles are posted repeatedly or have been open for a long time, signal of hiring difficulties. Lastly, news scanning, 5 minutes. Just hop around and look at industry publications for regulatory changes, market shifts, strategic announcements, things like that, and then look for company-specific news that could impact hiring, acquisitions, product launches, things like that. When we go up to the next level, which is weekly, you usually say spend about like 30 minutes once a week on first one will be pattern recognition. So what themes are emerging across multiple companies within the industry? Are there skills that are becoming more or less important within job descriptions? Are there certain geographic shifts that you're noticing in hiring? And then on the data synthesis side, can you turn any of those individual observations into broader market insights? Can you connect the dots between the different pieces of intelligence? And can you identify the implications for your prospects' businesses? Going to go up another level. So this is going to be the monthly deep dive. It should take 1 to 2 hours or so once a month. So first one is compensation benchmarking. This is a huge one, very helpful. A lot of you already do it, but just having this systematized is a big win. So first part, analyzing salary data from placements, job postings, network intelligence that you've gathered. You're tracking changes in those total compensation packages. And then you're noting key variables, geographies, company size variations, seniority levels, anything like that that could potentially impact those. And then on the other side of it is the competitive landscape mapping. So which companies are growing fastest in your niche, which new players are entering the market, how are established players adapting their hiring strengths, items of that front. And then lastly, we'll get to a quarterly synthesis. So again, a couple hours, once per quarter. First one is going to be your narrative development and iteration. So what's the biggest story from the past quarter? How do individual data points support the broader themes that you're seeing? And what predictions can you make based on current trends that you're spotting? And then this ties in with your content planning. So you can start to prepare your quarterly market wrap-up insights that we'll get into in the playbook in a little bit. You can plan follow-up research based on these emerging trends, and you can also schedule deeper investigation into promising intelligence leads. So if you had to think about a checklist to have for your different intelligence sources, here's probably, 5 to 10 different ones that I would look through. So LinkedIn job changes and company updates, industry job boards, career pages, trade publications and industry newsletters, conference speaker lists and agenda topics are a great place to find some of those. Funding announcements, acquisition news, if there's anything around regulatory updates, compliance, anything else relative to your industry. First-party data, your own placement data and candidate conversations are an absolute goldmine. And then client feedback on market conditions and hiring challenges. So remember, the goal isn't to become a research analyst here, but it's to spot patterns and trends that your prospects would find valuable and actionable. And this is what 95% of your competition is not doing. So this now leads us into the ABP playbook. What is the step-by-step system to go from cold prospect to first meeting? And this is where we're going to leave off and have you join us next week as we'll get into a week-by-week, quarter-by-quarter breakdown. Thanks for joining. Bye, y'all.